The framework that I want to go over today is, let's call it objection handling, but doing it in a unique way. Okay. Because everybody, this is not necessarily looked at it from a sales perspective. Because when you think about sales, at the end of the day, really all sales is coaching someone through their own mental objections to get to the point where they say yes. Now think about it. They would have never clicked on the ad. They would have never filled out the application form, and they would have never jumped on a call with you if they weren't interested. So we have to already assume that if someone has gone that far in the process, that individual is interested. Where most people drop the ball is recognizing that just because someone's interested, like on the one hand, when someone shows interest in something, it means they're 50% of the way there. They're looking for a solution, right? If someone walks into an appliance store looking for a washer and a dryer, we don't know when they're going to buy the washer and dryer, but they're not going to look for a washer and dryer unless they need a washer and dryer. So if someone has clicked on your ad, filled out an application form and booked a call, and they get to the call with you, there's obviously some interest there. The distinguishing factor as to whether or not someone gets involved with you, in many cases, not the only case, but in many cases, comes down to your ability to overcome their objections. Now, this is not where I'm going with this, is not a sales call. I'm not talking about, hey, here are the objections and here's how to overcome them in a sales situation. That could be reserved for another call, however we want to. But what I am saying is people always come with questions in their mind of, is there a reason I shouldn't move forward? And is there a reason I should move forward? And one of the best ways to overcome objections, how I'm going to talk about it anyways, is through what I would consider relatable case studies or relatable testimonials. Okay. Now, I will go over in a future framework what I call the case study framework. I think there's a very intelligent way to overcome objections by presenting a case study in such a way where it actually serves you as a sales tool. We'll talk about that some other time. I might dive into, and we've already talked a little bit about this in the past, about how to collect and when to collect testimonials. But the fundamental point of this framework is something that I learned from Stu McLaren many, many years ago. And essentially it's this. Step one, and this is what everyone should do this week. And if you don't already have this data, you'll have to guess. But if you already have this data, then great. But step one is to essentially write out all the main objections as to why someone might not move forward with you. Is it they don't know if it's good for their industry? Is it, I don't know if it'll work for me? Is it a price issue? Is it, I'm not tech savvy? Is it, I have no experience? Whatever you could imagine the potential objections are, is to come up with a list of those things. Step one. Step two then is to start categorizing, well, first collecting, and then secondly, categorizing all of your case studies and testimonials into the various objections that they overcome. Okay. So here's what I mean by that. If you know that John joined your program, and when John joined your program, the main objection that John had was, I'm just not tech savvy. Maybe they joined Jay's program and Jay helps people with podcasts. And they're like, I've never done a podcast. In fact, maybe that's not the objection. Maybe the objection is, I don't feel like I'm very good hosting a podcast. Maybe that's it. Right. You could sit there on a sales call or on a pre-call or on anything and just try to convince them, oh, it doesn't matter. We'll train you. We'll help you. That's all fine and dandy. But what if you had a list of 4 or 5 or 6 other people who had that same objection? You had a video of them saying, hey, you know what? I never thought I would be a podcasting person. I didn't like my voice. I wasn't comfortable on camera. I didn't know how to interview anybody. I was just happy being the little lonely guy in the corner, not talking to anybody. But then through joining Jay's program, I was taught and equipped and helped. And now I'm very confident. I have interviews all the time, blah, 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 blah. Do you see the difference between me trying to convince somebody that, hey, our program is going to help you do this? Or if I know that his objection was, I'm not good having conversations with people, and then I bring in front of them a case study or video or testimonial, an audio or a written case study, whatever it be, of someone who had that exact same objection, now it's much easier to overcome. So the point here is, and how Stu explained it was actually pretty incredible. And, you could take any version of this that you'd like, but literally on the back wall behind his camera, he had all the main objections listed on the top. And then below them, he had the names of the various people who had to overcome that objection. So anytime he was doing a webinar, anytime he was on a sales call, anytime he was doing content, maybe he saw an application come in and it said, hey, I'm Tim Smith. Oh, and Tim Smith, you've seen the application is part of XYZ industry. He had this whole thing on his wall so that if he's having a conversation with Tim and Tim says, oh, I've never done this before. How do I know it'll work for me? He says, no problem, Tim. Let me tell you about John. And he tells John's story. Or let's say I have a sales call with someone, Tim, and Tim says, you know what, I'm in the health industry and I just don't know if your program can work for people in the health space. I say, totally, I get it, no problem. Let me send you a text right now to a 45-second video of Tina, who's in the health industry and was able to use this to blow up her business, right? So the point here is first step in this entire process is to identify what are the main objections that people might have as to not moving forward with you. You got to be ultra clear on that because these objections are going to come up all the time in sales and all that stuff. So we need to be ultra clear on what those are. Secondly, is to first collect and then categorize testimonials that overcome those various objections. So now you have a suite of videos, case studies, testimonials that you can utilize in every aspect of your marketing that are categorized based on the objections that they have. The third step then is you would either preemptively do this. So let's say someone's booked a call on my calendar. I know the top 3 objections are A, B, and C. So I send them through a nurture sequence prior to the call or as part of my one-sheeter or part of my pre-call video. I basically say, hey, these 3, you want to check out these amazing videos that just came in. They're really short. Come and view them before our call. This way, you're preemptively overcoming objections before the call happens. That's one use case of it. The second use case of it is if you're actually on a call and they're providing an objection, you can say, hold on, let me just share this video with you and play it on the Zoom interview when you're having it with them and show them that. Or if someone says, you know what, Tim, and I think Tim had this thing where he had a conversation with somebody and they said, you know what, I need a day or two to get back to you on this. When they're in their thinking mode or decision-making mode, you hit them with a couple of these that are specific to their niche, specific to their industry, specific to their objection. You hand it over to them. And then again, they watch that and that'll help push them over the landscape of it. So the point here that I'm trying to make is if we are aware of the objections that our prospects are making, and we can start to collect and categorize client endorsements, testimonials, audio, video, written that counteract those objections, then we have this tool that we can use early on in the funnel process. We can use them as ads. We can use them as retargeting ads. We can use them after someone's booked a call before they join the call. We can use them while we're on a call with somebody, and we can even use them while someone's in a decision window thinking about whether or not they want to join us. But without this is kind of a persuasion way, as Robert Cialdini calls it, a persuasion way to be able to overcome these in advance. And rather than just verbally saying, hey, you know that objection you have? Let me overcome it, is by sending people case studies and ideas.